The Hidden Village map was recently introduced to the game. This area was created in a Japanese style. Picturesque landscapes, unusual architecture, cherry blossoms, and above it all the snowy peak of the beautiful Mount Fuji. This video isn't about the visuals, however. We're going to talk about the key points and features of the area. The map can be divided into 3 zones: the canyon, the center, and the village. The canyon is separated from the central region by the hills. There are several routes to get here, 2 on each side. The so-called balconies are located near these routes. They let you shoot into the village and get down to the center if needed. Here we have an open field with some bushes and a lone rock. The field and the village are separated by a river. Be careful when crossing it. Some parts are deep enough to drown in. The buildings in the village are arranged in a simple pattern. After a few battles, there is no danger of getting lost. Let's examine each area in more detail. We'll start with the canyon when playing from the lower base. A key point and a site of fierce fighting is the hill in the G4 square. You shouldn't come here with the whole team though. You'll only get in each other's way. This position is good for a tank with a sturdy turret. Such a vehicle can stay behind the rocks and not only spot the enemy, but also deal damage, while getting non-penetrations and ricochets in return. Just remember that this position is exposed to artillery, and it often aims at this very spot. We don't recommend leaving the cover of this rock sideways, as you will definitely lose your tracks and die. It's better to leave the rock at an angle, like this. Use this technique with other cover as well. Another important position is the road up the hill. Keep in mind that this position is best suited for tanks with good gun depression. Using other vehicles here will be very hard. Also, don't forget that your only cover from artillery fire is a small, flat hill. Another spot well suited for active play is the rock in the F5 square. Gun depression is not needed here, but you shouldn't come here without good armor. Once you leave the rock, you are fully exposed to enemy fire, so angle your hull and be very careful. If the enemy has no artillery, you can use the rocks in H4 and G5 squares for temporary cover. There is another big rock not far from them. You can shoot at opponents that are located in the canyon as well as into the village from here. This spot is less risky, but it's better suited for providing cover for allies than for active fighting. Another support position is the G7 square. Artillery will have a hard time hitting you here. Don't forget that although the distance to the enemy is great, you will most likely be spotted when you fire. You should retreat back into cover between shots. Another good spot for covering Allied forces is the H7 square. The main thing to remember is to demolish the house and open up more avenues of fire. And now, let's look at playing through the canyon from the other side. The map is almost mirrored along the K1A0 line, so things aren't that different when starting from the top base. The rocks at the G4 and F5 squares are ideal for well-armored vehicles. Remember that exposing your side increases the chance of a quick ticket to the garage. Try to leave cover at an angle. The numerous fir trees around here offer great concealment for tanks with good gun elevation. It's often possible to shoot at the enemy while remaining unseen. It's easy to provide cover for allies from the rocks at E2, F3, and the bushes in E3. The last position is best suited for tanks with good camouflage, a low-profile TD, for example. Let's sum it up. This direction has rather complex terrain. It's best suited for well-armored vehicles with good gun elevation angles. What about the village? The main feature of this flank is that most of the objects here can be destroyed. There are exceptions though, like the tallest pagoda and 3 other buildings. In addition, some houses have foundations that can be an impassable obstacle for your tank. On the other hand, these foundations can provide excellent cover for your lower hull. The main battles are usually waged near the temple. The houses here are often used as cover, but there is an alternative. When you start at the bottom base, you can stay behind a rock in B9. If your team is about to lose control of the village, you can fall back and hide behind the bushes in the E8 square. Thanks to your recon, the Allied forces in the canyon will have a chance to engage the enemy vehicles with impunity. They may even repulse the attack before you get spotted. When playing from the top base, the rock and the B8 square can provide good cover, but keep in mind that it can't protect you from artillery. Also, combat in this area tends to be very dynamic, and as a rule, the more active team will win. In general, this direction is best suited for mobile vehicles with a high rate of fire, medium tanks for example. It's not a good idea to come here with a slow, heavy vehicle. Even if you win the local battle for the village, you'll have a hard time winning the overall battle. The point is that the road from the village is exposed to fire from the base and the canyon. Keep this in mind. Now, a few words about the center of the map. It's best to come here driving a fast scout tank. If you get here right at the beginning, you can illuminate enemies moving into the village. A bush near the rock and the E6 square is well suited for this. Possibly your allies can put some shots into the enemies you've spotted, and your team gets an advantage before the fight has even properly began. Keep in mind that you won't be able to stay here for long. It's better to save your tank. Stay alive and wait for an opportunity to rush to the enemy artillery. You can also drive into the enemy's rear for a surprise attack and have a spectacular finale. Artillery positions should also be talked about. When playing from the lower base, there are great firing positions in the J0 square just outside of the base circle. They let you fire on the main battle areas. If you play from the top, then there are two positions you can use. The first is the B2 square, and the second is a small dip with dense vegetation at the A3 square. All of these points let you shoot at most parts of the map from different angles, which is especially good if the team has more than one SPG. We should also say a few words about the hills and mountains. A large part of the map is covered by inaccessible rocks, though not so inaccessible after all. The most nimble tankers already know about this and climb them from time to time. Do keep in mind that while these positions are interesting, they are mostly useless. Don't waste your time trying to climb the mountain. You won't be much good for your team up there. That is all for now. Good luck on the battlefield!